A strong woman is not defined only by physical toughness or the ability to endure challenges. Her strength comes from something much deeper, a sense of self-worth, independence, and emotional resilience that cannot easily be shaken by outside forces. She knows who she is, what she wants, and what she will not tolerate. This type of woman is powerful not because she dominates others, but because she refuses to be diminished by fear, manipulation, or insecurity. And it is exactly this kind of strength that often intimidates weak men. Weak men, in this context, are not defined by a lack of financial success or physical ability. They may have wealth, status, or even charisma. But inside, they lack confidence, maturity, and emotional depth. They seek validation through control, dominance, or external recognition, rather than through true self-awareness. When faced with a strong woman, these men feel threatened, because her presence exposes their insecurities and forces them to confront truths they would rather avoid. One of the main reasons strong women scare weak men is that they cannot be controlled. A weak man thrives in environments where he can manipulate, where he can feel superior, or where he can keep someone dependent on him for validation. But a strong woman refuses to play that role. She does not need constant reassurance or protection, nor does she crave approval at every turn. Her independence challenges the weak man's fragile ego, making him feel unnecessary or powerless. For example, imagine a woman who has built her own career, manages her own finances, and makes her own choices with confidence. A strong man would admire her drive, perhaps even feel inspired by her determination. But a weak man might feel humiliated in her presence, as if her achievements highlight his own lack of ambition or effort. Instead of seeing her as a partner, he sees her as competition. Another reason strong women intimidate weak men is their unwillingness to tolerate disrespect. Weak men often rely on subtle forms of control, condescending remarks, gaslighting, or attempts to undermine someone's confidence, to feel powerful. But a strong woman recognizes these tactics instantly. She calls them out or simply walks away, refusing to stay in toxic dynamics. This ability to set firm boundaries terrifies weak men, because it strips away their usual methods of control. Strong women also demand honesty and authenticity. They do not settle for half-truths, excuses, or shallow promises. They expect real conversations, accountability, and emotional transparency. For a weak man, who hides behind bravado or false confidence, this is unbearable. He fears being seen for who he really is, vulnerable, insecure, and unsure of himself. To him, the strong woman is like a mirror that reflects back all the parts of himself he is desperate to hide. It's also important to note that strong women often carry an aura of self-respect. They do not chase love out of desperation, nor do they cling to relationships that drain them. Instead, they know their worth and are willing to wait for someone who matches their energy. Weak men, however, prefer partners who depend on them emotionally, financially, or socially. When a woman does not fit this mold, he feels useless, rejected, and even emasculated. In many cases, weak men may try to diminish strong women in order to protect their ego. They might call them too much, too independent, or too intimidating. These labels are not reflections of the woman's flaws, but rather admissions of the man's own insecurities. When he says, "You're too much," what he truly means is, "I am not enough to handle you." Strong women are also unafraid of solitude. They understand that being alone is not the same as being lonely. They would rather stand on their own than compromise their values for the sake of keeping a relationship. Weak men, on the other hand, often fear being alone because it forces them to face themselves. The strong woman's comfort with solitude reminds them of their own inability to feel whole without external validation. Another factor that scares weak men is the emotional depth of strong women. These women feel deeply, think critically, and express themselves with clarity. They are not satisfied with surface-level interactions or relationships built on convenience. They want meaningful connections, intellectual stimulation, and emotional honesty. Weak men, who are often uncomfortable with vulnerability, find this exhausting or intimidating. Instead of rising to the challenge, they retreat, shut down, or lash out. Strong women are also resilient. They have faced challenges, heartbreaks, and failures, but instead of breaking, they have grown stronger. Their resilience makes weak men nervous, because it means they cannot be easily manipulated through fear or hardship. A weak man may try to intimidate or discourage, but a strong woman will only become more determined. Her ability to rise after every fall highlights his inability to do the same. Perhaps one of the most significant reasons strong women scare weak men is that they cannot be objectified. A weak man often reduces women to appearances, treating them as trophies or accessories that enhance his own image. But a strong woman refuses to be valued solely for her beauty. She demands respect for her mind, her voice, and her individuality. When a man cannot reduce her to an object, he panics, because it removes one of the easiest ways he feels powerful. Moreover, strong women inspire change, not only in themselves but also in others. They encourage growth, challenge old patterns, and refuse to settle for mediocrity. For a man who is insecure, this kind of energy feels threatening. Instead of seeing her as a partner who could help him grow, he feels exposed, as if his flaws are under constant spotlight. A weak man does not want to evolve, he wants comfort. And a strong woman disrupts that comfort simply by existing as she is. Strong women are also not impressed by superficial power. Wealth, status, or charm may attract them initially, but these things are not enough to keep them interested. They seek integrity, consistency, and depth. For a weak man who depends on external success to cover his inner emptiness, this is devastating. He realizes that what he thought made him valuable means little in her eyes. At the core of it all, weak men fear strong women because they expose truth. They reveal that strength in a partner is not something to fear but something to embrace. They highlight the difference between control and connection, between dominance and partnership. And in doing so, they force weak men to ask themselves a question they may not be ready to face: am I strong enough to stand beside her, or will I run because I am afraid? Strong women also challenge traditional gender roles, and this can be very unsettling for weak men. For centuries, society has taught men that they must be the leaders, providers, and decision-makers, while women are expected to follow, support, and sacrifice. A strong woman disrupts this narrative. She shows that women are fully capable of leading, creating, and living independently. For a man whose identity is tied to outdated roles, this is terrifying. He fears losing relevance, because her strength proves that his control is unnecessary. In relationships, strong women value partnership, not hierarchy. They believe in sharing responsibilities, making decisions together, and respecting each other's individuality. Weak men, however, often prefer dominance. They want to feel like the head of the relationship, the one who decides what is right or wrong. When a woman refuses to submit blindly, he perceives it as a challenge to his masculinity. In reality, it is not about masculinity at all, it is about his inability to embrace equality. Another reason strong women unsettle weak men is that they do not fall for manipulation games. Weak men often rely on tactics like guilt-tripping, silent treatment, or playing the victim to maintain control. These games might work on someone who craves validation or fears abandonment, but they fail with a strong woman. She recognizes these behaviors for what they are, signs of immaturity and insecurity. Instead of being pulled into the drama, she detaches herself, leaving the weak man powerless. Strong women also understand their emotions, and they are not afraid to express them. A weak man may label her as too emotional or too sensitive, but in truth, her emotional intelligence is what makes her powerful. She can communicate clearly, identify her needs, and connect deeply with others. Weak men, who often suppress their emotions or lack self-awareness, feel overwhelmed by this. They do not know how to respond to someone who can articulate her feelings without fear. What makes strong women truly intimidating is their ability to walk away. Many weak men assume that women will tolerate poor treatment out of fear of being alone or due to societal pressure. But strong women know that leaving a toxic relationship is an act of courage, not weakness. Their willingness to walk away shows that they value themselves more than they value temporary comfort. For a weak man, this is devastating, because it removes his greatest weapon, her fear of losing him. Weak men are also unsettled by the ambition of strong women. A strong woman dreams big, sets goals, and pursues them relentlessly. She does not wait for permission to grow, she creates her own opportunities. Weak men, however, may see her ambition as a threat. Instead of being proud of her success, they may feel overshadowed, as if her growth diminishes their own worth. They forget that true partnership means celebrating each other's victories, not competing for recognition. Furthermore, strong women inspire respect wherever they go. People admire their confidence, listen to their voices, and trust their leadership. This natural magnetism makes weak men uncomfortable, because it reminds them that respect is earned, not demanded. They may envy her influence and resent the fact that she does not need them to gain approval from others. Her self-sufficiency makes them feel irrelevant. It's also worth noting that strong women demand accountability. They do not let excuses replace responsibility. If a partner fails to keep a promise, they call it out. If boundaries are crossed, they enforce consequences. Weak men, who are often used to escaping accountability, cannot handle this level of integrity. They feel exposed and judged, even when the strong woman is simply standing up for fairness and respect. A strong woman's presence also requires growth. She does not allow people around her to remain stagnant. She pushes for progress, encourages better habits, and challenges negative patterns. For a strong man, this is motivating. For a weak man, it feels exhausting. He may interpret her encouragement as criticism, not realizing that she is inviting him to grow alongside her. His resistance to change makes her strength unbearable to him. Another fear weak men have is losing control of the narrative. In many relationships, they rely on spreading doubt, making their partner believe that she cannot survive without them. Strong women shatter this illusion. They know they can thrive on their own, with or without a partner. This independence makes the weak man's usual tactics ineffective, and without control, he feels powerless. Strong women also attract attention naturally, not just from men but from everyone around them. Their confidence, charisma, and intelligence draw people in. Weak men, who crave being the center of attention, may feel threatened by this. Instead of appreciating her ability to shine, they may try to dim her light, often by criticizing her or downplaying her achievements. But a strong woman never apologizes for shining brightly. The truth is that strong women reveal the weakness in weak men simply by existing. They are not trying to intimidate, belittle, or overpower anyone. They are simply living authentically, refusing to shrink themselves to fit outdated expectations. The fear weak men feel is not caused by the women, it is caused by their own inability to face themselves. But here is the paradox: while weak men may run from strong women, strong men are drawn to them. A man who is secure in himself sees her strength as a blessing, not a threat. He admires her independence, respects her boundaries, and finds joy in her success. He knows that being with her does not make him less of a man, it makes him more complete. This is why strong women may scare weak men, but they inspire and uplift strong men. Strong women also carry a powerful presence in how they love. Their love is not shallow, based on appearances or fleeting pleasures. It is deep, passionate, and transformative. They give fully, but they also expect honesty, loyalty, and respect in return. For a weak man, this kind of love feels overwhelming. He may interpret her passion as pressure because he cannot rise to meet the depths she offers. He prefers comfort over intensity, routine over growth, and convenience over truth. Her love, therefore, becomes intimidating, not because it is wrong, but because it demands maturity. Weak men often crave control more than connection. They want someone who will validate their worth by submitting, someone who will make them feel powerful without requiring them to grow. But a strong woman cannot give this kind of false validation. She sees through pretense and refuses to inflate fragile egos. Instead, she expects her partner to stand beside her as an equal. This equality feels threatening to a weak man who relies on inequality to feel strong. Strong women are also unapologetically themselves. They do not shrink to make others comfortable, nor do they hide their talents, opinions, or dreams. They speak with conviction, even when their voices challenge the status quo. Weak men, who often rely on silence or submission to maintain control, cannot handle this. Her refusal to hide makes him feel exposed, as though her authenticity highlights his own lack of courage. Another key reason weak men fear strong women is their refusal to tolerate half-hearted commitment. A strong woman knows her value and will not settle for someone who is inconsistent, unreliable, or emotionally unavailable. She understands that love is not about games, but about mutual respect and effort. Weak men, who may want the benefits of a relationship without the responsibility, feel unprepared to meet these expectations. To them, her standards appear too high, when in reality, they are simply standards of self-respect. Strong women also embody resilience in failure. They are not afraid to take risks, to try, and to fail, because they know every setback carries lessons. This courage unsettles weak men, who fear failure so deeply that they often avoid growth altogether. Her ability to embrace risk and learn from it makes him feel inadequate, as if her bravery exposes his avoidance. In the end, what scares weak men most is the freedom of strong women. They are free in mind, free in spirit, and free in choice. They are not bound by fear of judgment, dependence on approval, or attachment to toxic love. This freedom makes them unstoppable. Weak men, who live in chains of insecurity and fear, feel powerless beside such freedom. But this fear is also a lesson. It teaches us that strength in women is not something to suppress but something to celebrate. It shows that weakness is not in lacking power, but in lacking the courage to grow. And it reminds us that relationships thrive not when one person controls the other, but when both walk side by side as equals. So, why do strong women scare weak men? Because they represent everything weak men are not: confidence, independence, resilience, authenticity, and freedom. They are living proof that true strength cannot be controlled, silenced, or diminished. And that is why, while weak men may run from strong women will always stand tall, unapologetic, and free.